Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Strategy Guide, where we show you how to get strategic victories and tactical victories in your favorite video games. Strategic thinking, why I do this, why I do that, and so forth. We are going to go over an entire analysis of a scenario. We are doing Modern World, we're doing the World Conquest map, the official map. And we are doing Modern World. We're going to do the 20, 40, 60, and the 111 version. We're going to look at them. And the full version for the 111 as well. So, what we're going to be doing here is we are going to be looking at some of the key things that change over time as you get more and more nations into scenarios. And also what you can do in terms, and what each player should do at the beginning of the late game, mid-game, early land grab / laning phase, whatever you want to call it. I call it laning phase for a reason, but I'll get into that. Alright, so, starters. Let me think here. I'll go with Canada to start out with. So in this scenario, Canada borders only... Early on, we'll only have to worry about the borders of the U.S. when we start in the scenario if they land grab down here. Now, I believe, though, the territories right around here are going to be definitely an early rush land grab between the U.S. and Canada to get these, as they have a lot of population there. Now, there is a downside to playing as Canada like there is with every nation, and I feel like if you were to play this one and you try and go for land grabbing up north, where actual modern-day Canada is starting from here, you can do that. You get lots of land, so you'll get lots of taxes because you have more people that you're governing over. Although, you're not getting a whole lot of people per territory, so on a dime, if you need to go to, say, this territory because you know it's going to be attacked, and it has such a low population, you can't buy enough troops to do that, if there's not high enough population to get troops from there, then that's going to be a bit of an issue. Although, if anything, you want to spread out what you do when you do fertility festivals and try and make big cities not all right next to each other like you have down here. But maybe put one over, maybe like put one here because it's because it like borders like, I think like 7 other territories here. And then that's a good thing because then you can buy all your troops in that one territory, and then send them off to 1 to 7 different territories that need it, versus what you can do with the other ones. Although Alaska up here has a little bit more population, not as big as some of these ones down here, but it's a good one to get, and you have more population in certain areas of modern day Alaska, so that's a thing. Also, another thing here, aside from just spacing out your big cities that you will eventually grow and to make, I think going for modern day Greenland would be good as well. Not a good option if you are playing a scenario where Greenland is available. That will come when you have more than 20 nations here, and so forth. Mid-game, you're definitely going to have to fight against people. If you can, make US your ally. They're right next to you, and then finish them off. Usually I make an alliance with them, and usually Canada agrees with whatever I say, like surrender, or a great challenge later on to where you don't actually have to cancel diplomatic relations with them and lose happiness. They'll either agree with you, and you don't have to fight them, or they disagree with you, and you'll fight them if one of you gets Grand Ruler status and do that, which, making use of Grand Ruler status stuff is sort of like late mid-game, early end-game stuff, so you want to do that. Laning / land grab phase, like I said, going up here would be good, but for the first few turns, maybe grabbing a few of these and making a straight line across North America here, make one lane of territories, hence why I call it the laning phase. And sort of make it so that if the US ever were to try to expand in the land grabbing phase up here, they'd have to go around your territories, or simply fight you, which most people don't want to do yet if they can spend their resources and time claiming other territories. But at the same time, if you were to do that, in certain scenarios, if you're a little bit closer, maybe 8 turns in, you'll have 2 or 3 neighbors that are just as big as you, or almost as big as you. and you can go right for their leader and take them out and get all their land if you have an annihilation. United States here. Let's go with this one next. Starting on the coastline like Canada, but all of them should be protected because sneak attacks are much easier to do from naval combat and amphibious assaults, as you can move up to 3 tiles. Note, embarking onto a territory to attack it counts as 1 movement, and disembarking counts as all of your movement for that turn. So that's the thing you can do. If anything, I'd make a small lane down here or line of territories and block off Mexico from expanding too much in here. But it's not so much to like not prevent them from getting territories, so much as it is reducing the amount of borders. Because if they get this, this, and this, then if you expand over here, you're gonna have to like protect 4 territories and spread out your armies to 4 different territories. Whereas you could have your borders better protected by limiting it to 2 territories and so forth in said scenario here as well. Then Mexico could very well do the same, although with Central America they don't have a whole lot to expand though. Although I would say after getting a few territories in each direction, the next best thing for them to do would be to get more territories, but it's going to be hard because they're going to be bordering Venezuela, Peru, and U.S. here. So you're definitely going to have to expand via naval embarkments and getting islands like the Galapagos, Cuba, Haiti, maybe even Hawaii. I don't know if that's a bit of a far reach. You want to centralize a strong hold on the area you start out in and expand from there. Because if you have a weak control over your main area, like U.S. here had only like 5 territories in this area, then decide to go to Africa, you can't really pour too much into each one early on, but late game, when you can afford to buy 100 troops per territory, when they need like 100 or so troops, or maybe even a few hundred, then yes, you're in the position to do that. But early on, you will not be in the position. The beginning battle phase, where it's no longer a land grab and almost every territory has been claimed, and the only way to expand is through war, or not fight people, and fight people but not your allies, that kind of thing as well, is the time when you should be able to do that. Or a little bit after that if you just want to focus on getting rid of enemies at your gates first. Either way, it really depends though. I mean, if Mexico and Canada are my allies, then of course I'm not going to worry about expanding my borders directly from where my stronghold is in North America. If I'm US, maybe I'll send a boat up to Greenland if it's unclaimed, or something like that, or one of these islands over here, and then attack from there onto Europe or something, because I'm not going to attack my allies. So yeah, now let's move on to South America. Venezuela, definitely gonna be border buddies with Mexico and Peru here with expansion. I feel like Peru's best option though in relation to Venezuela is to get this territory here, but at the same time Venezuela could get that as well. And the reason why I believe this territory is key is because this mountain range here prevents Peru from directly going this way to the right of where they are in South America without having to work around mountains. Although they can get the territory directly underneath them, but if they want to have 2 gateways rather than only 1, that's fine. Which actually would be good, because then you'd have 2 borders here and here, but you definitely want to be able to push out. But that's mainly where they're going to push there. But Venezuela here on a coastline, just like pretty much almost all of these nations are. So any coastline territory is going to be protected. You don't have to do that early on, but when people start declaring war on you, you can easily make like 100 or so troops here, send it out and around to where you won't see it, and then attack you, because it can move up to 3 spaces per turn, -1 if you, plus the 1 movement that it takes to embark on land. But you get the point. You could get an unexpected naval attack if someone's at war with you. So if you use a little common sense and you know you're not going to get attacked by naval raids, then you don't need to waste money on buying armies on the coastline, but if you are, that's going to be an issue. They have so much land here, I don't think any of the South American countries in this scenario would want to build navies early on, except for Argentina if they want to get these few islands down here, make a lane of 2 territories and grab this one here and lane it off so you can get the ship to yourself, and then you're pretty much guaranteed to get like 5 more territories, I guess. You want to do that and maybe expand up here. Brazil is the farthest away from all the other nations, so it's definitely going to have a lot of room to expand on land, but that is somewhat limited by how far Argentina, Peru, and Venezuela want to expand towards Brazil itself. Now, on the other hand, at any moment, though, like, if they get in border disputes and start attacking people, coastlines would definitely be a great option because you won't be able to see them coming, like I said before. So, most likely, they're probably going to be the ones who are best going to prep for coastline attacks. If you, and maybe U.S. and Mexico as well, Canada, you're going to have to spend your time going out and around. By that time, they'll probably grab a territory or 2 over here, and they'll see it coming, so, that's not going to be a good option. Alright. Now on to England and the rest of Europe. England here in this set scenario, I would say island expansion is good. Expand on the island you are currently on and go for the surrounding ones, because it's sort of like a buffer. It allows you to expand and see further out into the Atlantic Ocean and all that stuff, because that allows you to see if enemy ships are coming directly for your mainland. Although if they attack your island, of course you're going to know that, but if they're trying to sneakily get across into your mainland and they don't expect you having an island there, or it's going to be harder for them to sneakily attack you with the naval assault. Now, on the other hand, that's going to be like, turn 3 or 4, you're going to end up, expanding outwards onto other islands. So early on, you're going to have to end up using money for disembarkment fees to make these naval fleets. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. So I feel like early on, England's issue is going to be more about having having money to buy armies, rather than having not enough population to recruit soldiers for the armies, in this case. So, they could get a definite foothold of a few territories on here, which would be good, because it makes it easier later on when you want to expand down here, which there's a whole lot of room, when you get more. It's like, there's, like, no room to expand with some nations on the larger ones, where there's more territory, where there's less territory to grab and more, nations to begin with. Spain, on the other hand, they can expand and get all 6 territories surrounding their capital. Now, in this case, where Spain is shown on this map may not be accurate to where the actual capital is, but for scenarios and what I've done in the past with strategy guides on Age of Conquest 4, the territory that your leader starts out in is the territory that I refer to as your capital. It may not be the current territory that your leader's in currently in the scenario that you're playing in, maybe like 10 turns down the line from now, but that's what I refer to as capital. It's a point of reference on the map. It's a good thing to have a few of these if you're playing on teams with people, whether they be in your clan or not, which I am not actually part of a clan on here. Now, Russia, on the other hand, I like it because it's, like, away from everyone, and you can pretty much get everything. You can pretty much choose where you want to expand. You can choose to expand a lot over here, or a lot over here, and maybe not so much over here, and so forth. Depending upon where you understand, in Mongolia expand, they might run into you. 5 to 6 turns down the line, I don't know where they're going to expand. Per se, in direct relation to you, because you're different. I'm just doing this if I was playing as this nation expansion early on. Getting the cities right around you would be good. There are 7 of them, I think. Not gonna count it out, but, that would be good. So that there's no free unclaimed territory. That's something you can grab in an open direct line to your capital or where your leader is. Remember, you lose everything and they get everything that you own if your leader falls. So that's going to be good. You can also go up here if you want to get access to the Atlantic. If you want to get access, you can go over here to get access to the Atlantic Ocean. Maybe expand over here really far if you want Pacific Ocean. Arctic up here. You got the Black and Baltic Seas if you want to go there, or even the Mediterranean Sea if you want to go there and get and expand and have coastline there. Although if you do get a lot of coastline, that's going to be an issue. But the main thing I feel like is going to be an issue when the mid game comes is that because you have so much room to expand, you're like, oh, I'll send 10 troops that way, 10 troops that way, 10 troops this way, and so forth, which is fine. But when when it comes to combat and the land grab phase is over, if you have too much territory and people see this, and you don't have enough troops to spread evenly between these territories or have a sufficient amount of armies on the borders to defend, is where it's going to be an issue. And especially when you play the full mode, where you have a butt ton of territories to begin with, people can expand directly into you and go, hey, free territories early on. And it's better for them because they only have like 5 or 6 territories that they can defend, that they really need to defend, that are borders, and maybe 1 or 2 that they own, which aren't bordering anything other than their own territories that wouldn't be directly attacked and have no reason to arm them, and so forth. So that is kind of where that's at. Now, let's move on down here to Africa. Algeria definitely can make use of naval raids, surprise naval raids all across the Mediterranean Sea if they get a good, strong foothold on the coastline here of Africa with the Mediterranean Sea. Sometimes they can't expand directly where they want to because of mountains. That's going to be an issue. They're close to Spain, although they have to launch naval assaults to see it. So once they put a naval unit on the water, that ends the turn for that unit. It cannot move anymore. That naval unit cannot move on the same turn that it's made. It's just put out onto the water. They will be able to see it and know that you are going to surprise them if you do not have good relations with them. So getting off sneak attacks on them is not good. Maybe on Israel, which is down here on the further down the coastline here, or out and around if you want to go for Nigeria, Brazil. So it's kind of a good place to build a naval strong based army, but you have to have a good strong foothold on your land territories to launch attacks from. I wouldn't put it past them if they went directly for Sicily, Corsica, some of these other islands in the Mediterranean Sea if they wanted to. Nigeria has a lot of room to expand. It could end up being close to Sudan if they want to closely expand to them. Although I say stick to your own area. Don't expand directly into them. Just grab whatever you want and don't be greedy about it in the land grab phase. If you, because it may kill your chances of people wanting to be allies with you if you directly interfered with where they want to expand on purpose, and you know it. Angolia here. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Angolia. Mountain range prevents direct expansion to the right. They're gonna have to go down or up and around, sort of like over here with Peru. Definitely gonna meet on the coastline with Nigeria if they expand upwards too much, and they expand downwards too much as well. Same thing with Sudan if they expand upwards over here. They could definitely easily claim the tip here of Africa, go down here and make a lane across or a line. Get that? I definitely see them easily getting Sandwich Island, Madagascar, all these islands down here if they wanted to. But the only downside though is that I feel like a lot of their land, if they were to go for this, most of their borders would be naval borders, which is kind of good because that means you don't have to defend them that much unless you know someone has naval capabilities and they're going to attack you. If I know someone can't get to me navally, but they're at war with me, I'm not going to bother. If they're landlocked, then you don't need to worry about that. Although Sudan early on could easily get access to the water here, send out a fleet here, have it go out and around, and then sneak you, and then sneak around and do a sneak attack if you want with naval fleets. I wouldn't put past anyone who wants to do that. Other than that, I don't think there's much that you would have in relation to Angola and Sudan from this area. Other than that, I'm going to move on to Israel. So Sudan and Israel right here definitely might expand into each other, although Israel has a little bit more room over here, I believe, to expand. Especially, I would go over here as there's more mountain ranges, so there's natural defenses. So maybe if, instead of having a few extra borders that you have to defend, maybe it's not the case because the mountains prevent them from attacking you from a certain way, which is good in the land grab phase. Although if you make alliances with your neighbors, then you don't really need to worry about that. Now, another key point that I like to say is that they're located right on the Gulf here and in the Mediterranean Sea. So if they want to attack a guy down here, they can do so via a naval fleet. Their utility power in terms of their location to where they can launch naval fleets is a very good place. I actually believe it's one of the best in terms of naval fleet where your location is, because it starts right on the water. Turn 1, you could do that, although disembarkment fees early on are going to cost a lot, are going to affect you more economically early on, rather than they are late game when you're getting more money from taxes, and it's like, oh, 50 coins to send 100 troops onto the water. It's not gonna mean that much to you, whereas in the beginning, every piece of gold counts, where it's not gonna feel like that early on. And you could even go over here, attack enemies on Sicily, Corsica, all that stuff, if you wanted to. Afghanistan here. Let's see here. It's gonna be hard to expand directly up, down, left, or right, because you're gonna have to sort of move out. You're gonna have to go out and around all the mountain ranges in pretty much every direction. Definitely can get access if they expand correctly early on. They can go for the Gulf over here, somewhere around here if they want to. Go for the Gulf territory, like the Gulf here or here. I don't think they'll get Mediterranean access unless they fight for it or make an alliance with Israel and they agree to let them have one territory on there or something like that, or a small coastline there. I definitely can say, though, that if they expand, they can definitely get Baltic Sea and Black Sea here. Maybe even the maybe the Indian Ocean here, if they want to. They can definitely get all of modern-day India expansion, as that country is not in the 20-nation scenario. Definitely gonna have borders at the end of the land grab phase with China and Mongolia. I think more so with China, because direct expansion here is blocked off by the Great Wall and the remains of the Great Wall in the mountains. I don't know how much of that was actually has broken down over time for the Great Wall. I don't know. I'll probably look that up later. Anyway, Mongolia here. It could expand, although directly down is not a good idea, because it's going to be not a whole lot of room, especially when China and Afghanistan are expanding there. You could make one giant land up here and then get the whole, like, third of Asia and part of Russia up here by going up here, making a lane, then going over here, and claiming all of this if you want for your land grab phase. Do note, though, I feel like Japan, no matter what you do, is going to try and get coastline here on mainland Asia. If you would, sorry, I'm not very good with my geography. Mainland Asia, pretty much, I wouldn't put it past them. Although directly from the beginning, in relation to where Mongolia is, if Mongolia just goes up here and starts claiming this, that's fine, because I don't think Japan would go up here for any of this until, and if they did, well, they would, but not like right away. I think Mongolia would get there first in terms of what they need to do. First, in Mongolia is just gonna do that. The only issue though with Mongolia, if they do this, which they're gonna get more territory, is that they definitely want to claim some of the land down here first, like maybe 2 or 3, like maybe even 5 territories at most down here of even more highly populated cities. That way they can buy all the troops, send them on fleets up here to where they don't have a whole lot of troops. Sort of like over here when I said with Canada where they don't have a whole lot of troops. An issue is going to be buying troops to defend, being able to have a big enough population to recruit from to protect your territories versus having the money to buy the troops, which will be more of an issue in this situation for them with they being able to recruit troops rather than being able to pay for them. Now, on the other hand, Japan directly will, I recommend doing this by the book. It's the same thing I do whenever I played as, when I did it in the World Conquest one that I did, the Ancient World Conquest, with the nation down here. I forget which one it was called. Man, it's been a while since I played that particular scenario. Pretty much what you do is send 10 troops here, and then you only have 3 actions, right? So you buy troops with the money that you start with, and you disembark some troops here. I'd say disembark like 30. Buy 30 troops, buy 30 troops, you already have troops here, so you spend 10 there, and then send 30 out on the water, or however many you can afford. Then go here, get this island up here, because it has a bigger population, so early on, if you end up on lower populated islands, you can send naval fleets there to reinforce them if they can't buy the amount of troops directly from that territory you would need, and then definitely go for mainland here, and one of these islands here. Then, of course, you can buy more troops from this island, send a naval fleet of 50 out on the water, and then start claiming all these territories here. It's a good tactic for island hopping, and it's definitely the one that you are definitely going to need to do early on in order to get any good amount of territory to be able to handle the mid-game area. Australia here, mid-game is going to be island hopping, I guess, if there's any unclaimed things here. Although because Japan has to do it right away, I doubt they're going to get much anything. Maybe an island or 2 in modern-day Indonesia, but that's about it. Also, New Zealand and Tasmania, I guess, could be getting there. Now, Australia, on the other hand, is one of the best places in terms of offensively and defensively in a good balance for this said scenario. Now, the reason I like this is because they are surrounded by water. When the U.S. first formed, and we got our and we pretty much had a revolution, and we declared our freedom. One of the main things that was stopping people from coming over and just taking over this brand new nation that rebelled, and just any world power at that point from taking us over, was the fact that it took forever to get naval fleets to our location. And the thing is that early on, money is going to be more of an issue because you're not getting a whole lot of it. So they're not going to want to spend a bunch of money disembarking naval fleets to come down here and attack us. So early on, waters can be a very great economic border defensively for people going, is it really worth it to spend this much money right now to go bother them? Probably not. And at the same time, you offensively, for land expansion, you have a whole continent of Australia to expand on. So you get a bonus here. You really do in both areas. The only issue, though, is that you don't have as big of a land expansion as some of these other nations, so it might become an issue. So after that, you really got to do strategic play and try and do what's best for you rather than anything else. Now, as you can see, throughout this whole world here, there's a lot of room to grab and a lot of room to expand and a lot of territory to grab, make lanes so that you can block off people from expanding there unless you want to fight them. But ultimately, it's going to get a little bit harder to do all of this if you had more nations. So I'm going to leave. And let's create a new game. We're going to do World Conquest. You're going to look at 40. And let's get on to this. Alright. Annihilation. Just create. Not going to even worry about difficulty being on the lowest one. We're not actually playing a game here. Now, with this one, I'm not going to go over Canada, US, and Mexico because we pretty much went over that. The only thing you need to worry about is protecting your coastlines because Cuba is pretty much going to have to island hop or pretty much go to this island and then go find a foothold on mainland because of this. Because they don't really have much island hopping to do. So immediately they're going to have to make naval fleets, disembarkment fees. Going to be an issue, like I said last time. Pretty much all of these nations here just are limited by mountain areas. So that's going to be an issue. So Bolivia is going to greatly reduce the amount of land expansion in the land grab phase that Brazil has, as well as Peru as well. But the main thing I want to get over here is I'm going to talk about the relationship between Argentina and Chile here. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because you can see that the capital that both these have to begin with is there's a one territory in space difference between that. Chile needs this because they need to expand outwards on land, and the mountain range pretty much prevents it from doing that in every direction except for on this territory. Now, they could go up here, although Peru's probably going to go for this, unless they successfully get this territory from Venezuela, although they can easily get this turn 1, as well as turn 1 send troops up here to eventually go here next turn as well. So that's pretty much going to be a race between them. But the main reason I point this out is because if you are right next to a leader, you have the capabilities to attack them, although I wouldn't do it early on because pretty much all capitals have fortifications on them and have their leader there, which also provides a bonus. Although, if your leader falls, you get all of their... Then all of your territory is taken and owned by the person who took you out. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. So, if you grab this first, second turn, the team... The faction that did not get that territory is immediately going to have to move their unit to another territory that does not border with them. So you're going to have that issue, and you're definitely going to see that a lot as we get more and more into the other scenarios where there's more and more nations as well. England will have less territory to expand on mainland Europe because of Germany and France now here, and that also sort of affects Spain. Not much here, other than not much to do in South America other than Mongolia. Not Mongolia, that's over there. Never mind. Angola and South Africa are going to sort of limit what they can expand to, like I said before, with Angola getting all of this bottom half, which would be a great way to expand. Not really going to happen that much as they have a few other nations here. So I guess it'd really be a tie between these three to see who gets these other islands here. It's really just going to be whoever can get the most at the moment, and then they're going to have to work out their borders either through combat or through diplomatic solutions and talks. Italy, on the other hand, is centered right in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. They were not there in the last one. Definitely could go for Corsica and all these other islands in the Mediterranean Sea. Sicily, of course, because that's highly populated as well. And just try and get a foothold much more closer to here. Get one of these territories, that way they can expand, or the potential to expand increases a lot for mainland Europe. Down with Greece, a good spot on the Mediterranean Sea, sort of, because it's right close to these lakes here. Although it's not gonna probably want to go there, as you can expand further into here. Greece, I feel like, is gonna have an issue of money being an issue in terms of being able to buy troops, not so much having enough population to recruit. That's pretty much every city that you can pretty much expand to for the first 3 turns has a big city in there. They don't have fortifications like their main city does, although I don't think you want to buy fortifications land grab phase, and you should be spending that on armies to grab unclaimed territory. That's only going to be useful if the place is going to be attacked to begin with, so. Anyway, Russia, pretty much in all directions, is going to have less territory to expand to, but still has quite a lot. Kazakhstan, right at the beginning, they're going to have a lot of tree lines, so they're going to affecting where they can expand to. If anything, if I was them, I'd expand down here to where you have bigger populated cities even go for this territory right here, so that they have access to the Baltic and the Black Sea as well. That way you can pretty much have high population, so you can send them up to the lesser populated territories if you need to defend them, but also have access to the sea here, which allows you to create naval forces. Although, if you make a naval force here, it can only go here, or attack any one of the territories that has a coastline on it. But I do believe you can go from here to here. If you look close enough, you can go through there. I definitely know you can on the medieval map. So that's definitely going to be something that they can do. Finland, Sweden, and Norway definitely can. It's pretty much going to be a land grab for all of the territory on this pretty much peninsula up here, I guess, is what, if you want to call it that. If anything, if you don't get a whole lot of territory here, I wouldn't be surprised if Norway, Sweden, or Finland were to expanding to sort of grab all of these little islands up here, or even Norway, which is kind of fairly close to Greenland, go here and grab some of these territories here. If anything, if you're going to go for that, I'd suggest going for the most populated one down here, and then buying your troops from there and then sending them out here, and then focusing on making this one the biggest city by doing fertility festivals on this one, whenever you can, which you can only do once every 6 months per territory. And it's going to cost a lot if you want to do a nationwide one, but it also does not affect how many turns required in between fertility festivals if you want to do it on an individual one. Or maybe it just doesn't do it when you do a nationwide one. I don't know. Anyway, definitely get this one as a fertility festival, as it's surrounded by the most with 6 territories. So that's good. And so forth. And then rely on those to send out troops to the surrounding territories as well. Now, Afghanistan, the amount that they could expand down to in modern day India is gone, because India is in this scenario of 40 nations rather than the one not being in the 20. So that's going to be a thing. Also, the issue I said earlier about Chile and Afghanistan here is definitely going to be an issue with India here. Afghanistan as their one territory away, like I said before. Also, you see that with Israel. Also, with Egypt and Israel here. Turn 1, definitely don't go charging at the other player, because they have too many defensive bonuses with their leader and the fortifications. You're just wasting your troops and pretty much allowing them to openly attack you and just take out your leader next turn. It's a bloodbath. Don't do it. It's a bad mistake. I didn't learn that by experience, because that's something that sort of clicked to my head at first. I've seen some people who don't understand what that's a bad idea, but I'm just going to let you know now. That's what you want to avoid. Same thing here. Move your leader away if they grab if the other player gets the first territory from this setup here, sort of like here, like I said before. I also hear the Mongolia and China, but I didn't quite notice it because of the Great Wall that was there in the last scenario. Maybe it wasn't in the 20 nation scenario. So that's going to be good. The amount of territory they're going to get from expanding up here might not be as much as you think now that Kazakhstan is in play here for said scenario. Vietnam is down here, so they're going to get some of these. Maybe even island hop after they grab a few territories along the coastline. Although they're going to have to deal with Indonesia and Japan. They might even get some of the coastline here. Further down here if they really want to expand by naval. But Vietnam, not. I wouldn't expand too much onto island hopping. It's gonna eat away at your treasury. Is gonna be a big issue with all the disembarkment fees if you do that early on. Unless it's your only way to expand, then you have to do it carefully. And you have to spend your action points carefully, like how I depicted how you should island hop with Japan. You send out one big fleet, not multiple fleets for each territory you're going to expand to, and then from there, tell a little bit of each one to go to a little small part of that big naval fleet you made to go to each individual island, and it's much better that way. You save money, Well, you wouldn't save money because you're still. Well, I guess you would because you wouldn't have to pay disembarkment fees for every single one, but at the same time, you're saving action points as well. Alright, going on to Indonesia here. And Indonesia, definitely going to expand up here, grab these two islands. If you're lucky, you could get territory on mainland. Probably not going to be right away. And that's probably going to be either done through diplomatic negotiations, if you want to do that, buying and selling, or conquest, but definitely not land grab phase. If you are going to do that, it's because one of the nations like Vietnam just decided I'm not going to land expand. I'm going to do it via island hopping, which if you if you have the choice between island hopping or expanding on land in the land grabbing phase, you're going to get more out of land grabbing because you don't have to spend the disembarkment fee, so I don't know why they would be doing that. But if they do it, just it's more of a benefit to you, and you shouldn't complain. Alright, so down here with Australia, like I said before, there's still a lot of things that I said that were good, and most of them apply, except for the fact that it's not going to be so much the economic barrier to Indonesia because they're right next to you. They're like, we can afford to send some troops and take over part of this island here because Japan's and some of these other places like China's not going to make a naval fleet early on, pay the disembarkment fee, which is going to be like about a third of their money, depending upon the size of the navy that they want to build, just to take one territory down here from you that you could get during your land grab phase. It's just not worth it. Mid game though, you can feel safe that that nothing will attack you unless it's a surprise attack, because with all of these surprise attacks that they can do, because up to 3 territories away can they attack and so forth, because they can move 3 units, 3 tiles, I guess. Plus 1 to land onwards onto your territory for the amphibious assault. But if anything, I'd go for these islands over here. That way you can sort of get a good idea if someone's going to make naval fleets, send them out to attack. People like moving out and around to come in and around the tip of South America here and attack someone else. You would know that, and you could choose to tell the people that they're going to attack if you believe they're going to attack your ally, or if they are your ally, you can just also tell them, like, hey, I'm out here, I also saw one of your enemies have a naval fleet there, so it's also good for intel, because like I said before, this would be a great way if you are on the coastline to just do heavy late game, heavy naval surprise attacks, because you're out here, you might be able to see one of them, or a few of them if they accidentally move one tile too close to you, but that's besides the point here. Anyway, that is pretty much what we're going to do for this one. Pretty much the 61, it's not really that much of a... It's not really going to do much, I would say, in a big of a difference, as you're just going to get less territory to get during land grab phase. You're going to have to worry about more nations when you do diplomatic talks and all that stuff, and so forth. Like Haiti and Cuba both have to island hop or land expand on mainland. You have less territory, way less territory to expand, pretty much for all of these places. So, if anything, just pick a territory far away from all the others, expand, land expand, and grab all the territory you can. That's pretty much it. There's not really much to say compared to 60 to 40, to be honest. If anything, I would say, if we're gonna do anything that looks different, we're definitely gonna look at the modern world with 111 nations here. So let's go, annihilation, and create. So with this one, some of these places are gonna have way more territories to expand than others, some less. But if you look here, Germany can only expand into this territory here, but pretty much everyone else has their own option and Germany's landlocked at the moment, so they can't make a naval fleet. So they either have to grab this territory and expand navally here, or pretty much go to war with someone to get their territory. It's pretty much early on, people are going to keep going to war with each other just to get land, just so that they can expand, because they may not be able to expand from where they are, which makes sense. Now, on the other hand, because the more nations that are here, you have way less territory to expand than you did in the 60 or even 40 version. Which is also a thing as well. So now what we need to do is to go and figure out what we would want to do here for our nations. I mean, there's some downsides and some upsides, like people are going to attack you right away because they feel like it's beneficial just to get the one territory next to them, and you're sort of screwed if that happens, because then you can't land expand if you have to worry about the fighting, and it screws them over too because they're also spending resources on fighting you as well. So my top nations I'd pick would be Greenland, because it's on an island and economic borders early on, Canada, United States, and go with Argentina. Wait, Argentina. Actually, no, not Argentina. I meant to say Australia. I would say would be the last, would be there, and my next top pick would be actually be Pakistan. Now this one seems a little odd why I would do this, but this one, like, I know it's near other territories, but if you think about it, you grab this one, and this one, which expand to turn 1. Then you have all of this area to expand to up here. Now, the main reason why you're going to have to do this is because you want more land so you can get more money from taxes and whatnot, which you can spend on more armies, which, in turn, during the battle phase, when you're not land expanding, you're going to have more money to do so if you just focus on expanding land-wise and worrying about borders rather than just who am I going to fight later on, because if you just do that, in your current scenario, I feel like it's going to be better. Plus, you have tree lines so that you don't have to really protect every single border. Versus Russia here, which does have about the same, I would say, in terms of land expansion for unclaimed territory near where you start. But at the same time, you have so much more nations right next to you that they could prevent you from taking those unclaimed territories to begin with. Whereas you really only have 2, maybe 3 if Mongolia wants to directly expand up into your area, but they could definitely get a good amount going this way, away from you, if they want to not worry about engagements and defending borders like 3 turns in, which is something else. Now, the main reason why I'm going to do the full version is that there's a lot of things that go on with the full version that we need to see. When you have full version, there is no land grab or gleaning phase whatsoever. In this one, you have all territories claimed. All territories have been claimed. The only issue is the United States starts up here with their border, which is different than starting down here, but their fortification for their capital is not there. So early on, your leader is at risk of being taken out by Canada, and they can get 2/3 of North America turn 1 if you wanted to, unless you moved your leader away, and then you'll be on bad terms with them, and then you'll have border disputes early on. So that's going to be a thing. A lot of these nations here, we fully expanded, so you're going to have to go for their leader right away, and that's going to put a lot of people at risk. And the main thing I want to say here is that Kazakhstan, in this scenario, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 territories to start out with, but it's manageable. You can defend all of those territories if you want to. All of them are border territories, which kind of sucks. So you have to put troops evenly in all of them, but it's better, in my opinion, than having to put troops all along here in each individual one, so you'll have less troops per border, but you have a bigger border and more land, so you're getting more money to begin with. So so it's going to be like a huge difference in amount of troops you can put per a territory that can be that's going to be attacked, that's attackable. but at the same time, you make up for it, like, further down the line as you get more and more taxes as time goes on. As populations in each territory increase, but it's easier to expand with this one as you can afford to put troops in all of them and afford to defend newly conquered territories, which, seeing as it's bordering Russia, this makes sense as Russia has so much territory. It can't. I don't see a way that you could easily defend all of these territories, put troops on all of them. Maybe all the way down here, along here, and then maybe some here, and hope you make an alliance with Kazakhstan or Georgia, or Ukraine, or Estonia, or Latvia, or Lithuania, or one of these, or one of them, or Finland. You're gonna have to rely a lot on diplomatic talks and trying to convince people to be your ally in order for that to happen. So chances are I don't think that's gonna happen early on with every single nation, because if they're bordering you and they know this, they know you cannot defend all of them, and they could just not do any diplomatic relations with you, forcing them to put troops on your territory, making it easier for someone they are allianced with to go in and take territory from them as well. Starting out with too much land to begin with is not usually the best option. I've met a few people who've done this, and they've lost like half their territory to like 4 different people early on, and they get all of the territories, and it makes it easier for us to protect. Makes it easier to protect what you have if you have less to worry about, rather than how much borders you, rather than worrying about a butt ton of borders and so forth as well. So having the largest nation start out with in these scenarios is not always the best, and that is something that some people have learned the hard way. Some people who actually pick this nation that I've seen actually know how to do and deal with this problem specifically. So if you don't know how to deal with that, hope you get here early on and pick a good one that fits for you, because each one early on requires a specific strategy, because it's more or less about strategy and battling other people rather than land grab phase when it's full and everything is claimed. All territory is claimed by a world power in this situation, or I don't know what classifies as world power off the top of my head, or any of the playable nations has claimed all that territory and there's no unclaimed territory. Anyway, I feel like I'm going to have to end this off here. This is my whole analysis of all the different versions of the modern world map scenario on Age of Conquest 4. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more strategy guides for this, let me know by leaving any comments, questions, or feedback for me in the comment section down below. It is highly appreciated, and I will see you guys later in another video. Bye-bye!